Welcome to the Locker Room. I'm Alan Locher, and I am thrilled to have Rick Hearst here with us today to discuss his exciting and well-received return to ABC's General Hospital. Rick reprised his role of Ric Lansing this past August, stepping back into the drama of Port Charles after an 8-year hiatus. Since his return, he has been busy stirring things up, reuniting with ex-wives, taking on controversial clients, and spending time with his daughter, Molly. Rick first arrived in Port Charles via Venezuela, I believe, in 2002, and went on to win 2 Daytime Emmy Awards for his roles in 2004 and 2007. Daytime fans know Rick from his standout roles as Scotty Banning on Days of Our Lives, Alan Michael Spaulding on Guiding Light, Carter Mills on The Young and the Restless, and Whipple Jones on The Bold and the Beautiful. With a career spanning 3 Daytime Emmy wins and appearances in primetime hits like The Vampire Diaries, Dynasty, Beverly Hills 90210, he continues to bring unmatched talent to every single role he takes on. Please help me welcome my friend Rick Hearst back to the Locker Room. Hey, Rick.
Hi, Alan. Good morning. What a wonderful tee-up. My goodness. I actually did all that stuff. Now I know. I go, yeah, I'm only still 25 in my mind.
That's good. You've definitely, you've done a few things. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you as well. It's nice. I'm in sunny Southern California right now. So,
well, you should even though it is 26 in New Jersey or something like that.
Yeah, I've been keeping apprised of that from my family. Let me know. It's like, oh my God, it's so cold up here. I'm like, whoo, what a beautiful day.
Well, let's talk. What's it been like stepping back into Ric Lansing's shoes? Like I said, it doesn't look like you're having any fun.
No, zero. It's just drudgery every single day. I have to drag myself in and kind of, put on the blinders and go, well, this will be over soon. No, it's been, as I said, after my first couple of days when I came back in August, it's hard to believe that it's already been that long, but just my heart's very full being there. It's you understand and see all of the people that you pretty much grew up with, whether they've been on other shows or the shows that you've worked with them. So it's nice. It's been coming home back to family and meeting new family as well. And it's just been really lovely. Every day I kind of pinch myself and I go, and I'm super duper grateful for it. And yeah, it's magnificent. It's really lovely.
Was the call back in August from Mark Teschner a welcome surprise?
It was a complete welcome, sure, but just an unexpected surprise, if that's saying the same thing. It was in June, actually. He had reached out to me, and I just happened to be on my computer, and all of a sudden I get messages because I have so many different ways that you can reach me, whether you can reach me through my Google Voice or whether you can reach me through my real estate business, or you can reach me through my email, which he has, my phone number. I'm like, he hit them all. And I was like, okay, this isn't just a, hey, how you doing?
Right.
So I reached back out to him and I said, hi, Mark, what's going on? Hey, Rick, how you been? Great. I said, what's up? Like, I have, touch base with him from time to time, via Facebook, as we all do. But it was really, I kind of knew something was in the air. It was very, hey, Frank would like to know, the executive producer would like to know if you would be interested in coming back for 8, 10 episodes, something like that. And I was like, my first response was, because it was such an extensive period of time, I just was like, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, sure, I kind of got to wrap my head around this. He says, I know that, you have a lot in your life right now. You moved to New Jersey, you have your real estate business and whatnot. I'm like, yes, I do. I said, so, obviously I'm always open to anything opportunity wise. I'd like to listen and not say no before. But there was considerations, and then it kind of, they went back to just say, yes, I'm interested. And then came back to me about a week and a half later and said, well, actually, they were thinking a little bit longer, like maybe 20 episodes. I'm like, oh, okay, now we got to talk because, that's a lot of time.
Planning,
And I
planning is
have,
involved.
yeah, just got a lot of planning. And I'm very much, the older I get, thankfully, I've become more and more of a planner because it's not just myself and my wife or me, myself, my kids. It's really I have my two, and I'm reluctant to use this word, elderly moms. My mom and my mother-in-law live with Donna and myself. So because if my mom sees this, she goes, I'm not elderly. No, you're not. You're not elderly at all, Mom.
I
You're
can't
quite
do.
vital. Quite vital, yes. But so those considerations had to be looked at as well, and we worked it all out. I said, yeah, sure. And once I got here, after the first couple of days, it was very odd, walking through the front door. I was very nervous about it, because you're 8 years.
I was going to ask, were there nerves? Because 8 years
Absolutely.
is a while.
It is. It's not like I hadn't been acting for 8 years. I mean, I've done other projects from the time that I was last seen in General Hospital. And, obviously being involved in a sales position as a real estate agent, I'm interacting and communicating with people and doing presentations and bringing all of the, my other skills that I've learned, as an actor over 30 plus years into that. But, it's still, it's, you go, geez, I haven't been there in a while. What's changed? Yada, yada. And I'm a king. Like I said, I'm very big on preparation. I like knowing what's coming before I walk into it. I'll dive in anyway, but you just like to know what your parameters are. So yeah, so in so much that the night before I left, I was lying in bed. I had to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm lying next to my wife, and it's midnight, and I can't go to sleep. And I have a full-on panic attack. So I'm laying there and going, "Oh God, no!" And I have to get on a plane, and I haven't been on a plane in a while, so I'm like, "What's that?" Flight for a long time. I've been taking 5 hours, just swirling and swirling and swirling, and you're just trying to compartmentalize everything, and so much so that I just reach over to my wife, and she's so funny. I tap her on the shoulder, and nothing will bring my wife out of a dead sleep. But I tapped her. I said, I'm having a full-on panic attack. And she goes, she just doesn't even open her eyes, reaches back across to me, taps me, and goes, it's a lot. And that was it. That was her input to my anxiety. And believe it or not, it actually was enough. So I calmed myself down. I got up the next day, and I think it was really just once I got here, I was very grateful. I had friends to be able to stay with up until this point, and you know, walking through the door, it was odd. My body, my I can't remember. It was my body that was trying to catch up with my brain, or my brain trying to catch up with my body. I was there as if I had never left, but my body was catching up with me and going, "Oh, wait, where are you?" Like, So, but just dove right in. And of course, my first scenes were with Nancy Lee, and It was like, again, like
Off
you
and
never
running.
off and
Um,
running.
I think as we age, I think those anxieties are much more. They come more than I feel I had them as a younger person.
Yeah, because listen, the unknown as we get older is, is it that's it, At least I think that way now. But yeah, I think we become we don't dive headlong into the breach without, some consideration, because we have a sense of our own mortality, right? So that's I think where that all comes from, and it's also having a lot more responsibilities, and you weigh your priorities very acutely, I think, more as we get older.
Yeah, so true. You mentioned the preparedness. You actually said this in a recent interview, that your secret weapon to any lack of ability, which is just you being modest because you have great ability. Um, about that preparedness, is there someone who encouraged that in you or taught you to work that way early
Oh
on?
God. Yeah, I mean, I can, as with acting teachers and what have you, I can do that. But truthfully, the that work ethic really came out of my family. My grandfather was just a workhorse. Like anything that he ever achieved in his life was by the sweat of his brow, right? As were both my grandfathers, and it was that age too. My mother is an extra. Has, her career expanded, well over 40 years as a very successful business person in a high end uh, cosmetic company. She was one of their account executives there, and and this was something that she took on without any true knowledge of it, but just the will and the wish to do it, right? And that I always followed and admired. And she always told me, growing up, you can literally you can do anything you set your mind to. And that's great. Some people adapt to that quicker than others, but I think if you have the will and the vision to do something, that's you just know that it's the steps taken to get you to that goal. And the more you think about that and less about the doubts or whether you have the talent or whatever, um, I think you will discover what you're capable of, and that's there. And then, of course, I did have acting teachers who were my high school acting teacher, and I will give him a shout out, John Steele, who still lives there in Dallas, was probably the largest influence on me, and so many of my class. I mean, there's so many different actors that came from him. There's an actor by the name of John Hickey, which I'm sure you are very familiar with. John Hickey was a year ahead of me in the same high school. And John's an extraordinary actor, obviously, as you know, a Tony winner. And he's done a million films and he's been around forever. But Stacey Travis, who Stacey has worked with SAG very acutely for so many years. She was in my class. I mean, it's funny to see where we've all gone, just with the seeds of what he taught us. He basically taught us that, either you're going to do this for the rest of your life, or you will have such an intense appreciation, you will be the ultimate audience member, right? Or you will go into some other end of the business, maybe. Who knows? Directing, writing, stagecraft, what have you, it may be. Not that kind of stagecraft, but you know what I mean. That came out wrong. So yeah, he was really probably the one of the biggest influences. And then when I got to, I went to UT in Austin, and I had great teachers there as well. But I had some extraordinary teachers in New York, who are since passed. Michael Kahn, Nico Sakaropoulos, who head up the, um, um, oh God, it's Pennsylvania. I've lost my head today. It'll come to me probably later on.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, it was a premier out of town summer theater that many big names were part of. But he was an incredible teacher as well. So many people, but those are the ones.
Yeah.
That was the ethic that we had then. And I think it's served me.
Well, it certainly has served you well. Was it Jill Farron Phelps who brought you to GH?
Yes, it was. It was. Jill, I got a chance to work with for the very first time on Guiding Light. We had a very, very special bond there. She created some amazing story with Nancy Curley and Stephen Demarest, and at first Pam Long, and some incredible, a lot of the outline writers who came on became head writers in their own rights, Michael Conforti, Melissa Salmon, Bill Elberman was really wonderful. She really had a way of gathering together a great community. And and then when I came to GH, I got the call, I was over at B&B, and I got the call to my agent that to come and basically talk with her and with Bob Guza and Charles Pratt on this role of Ric Lansing.
No audition needed?
No, initially. So this is the interesting thing. Went back and forth. When they met me and we stepped away, I just thought we were going to, do the deal. And then I received a call from Mark Teschner, and he had mentioned, he said, so not that they're asking you to, but if you would like to screen test for the role, they're bringing in a couple of other guys. To which I went, did you want me for this role or did you not?
Yeah.
And my guess is from the meeting, and it happens, from the meeting, I'm sure they got from me that I was just this, I'm not a fluff guy. I'm very straightforward. I do my talking when I'm on the set. When I get into the role, that's where I really, put forth, who and what I am. I try to, at least. And I don't know whether they were confident in that. But then I just kind of said no. I said, if you guys want me for the role, great, I'd love to do it. But if not, I totally understand. And so they wound up testing some other guys, and then they just called me and said, you're starting this. They called me on a Friday. You're starting on Monday. What? Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the role. Tell me what I'm doing. Oh, scripts are coming to you. I got the script my first day. First of all, I'm in a Venezuelan prison.
Yeah, with Steve Burton, right?
With Steve Burton. But the kicker was this, and I mentioned this the other day, and I was telling the story to some people in wardrobe. And I said, yeah, my first day I had to speak fluent Spanish. I opened up the script and I went, that's odd. Why is that in Spanish? But with the translation, I was like, maybe they're doing it in reverse. No way I'll be speaking Spanish. I mean, they didn't even ask me if I spoke Spanish. And not just one sentence, but like 5 scenes, 6 scenes of it. Not extensive, but just phrases. And I get there and we're in rehearsal, and I said, so this line right here, we're supposed to be speaking Spanish. What am I? Oh, you don't speak Spanish? Yeah, a little. Meanwhile, I'm rehearsing, and there's guys that are playing guards, and they have to speak Spanish in it as well, and they speak it fluently, and I can notice that. I'm like, yeah, well, it'll be fine. I grabbed this big guard, big Hispanic guy, and I said, you see these lines? Whisper them in my ear to me until I tell you to stop. And so this guy was so wonderful. He actually just said, yeah, no problem, no problem. And I would repeat it back to him, and we'd do it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, so that when it came time to actually shoot it, it came off. People were like, wow, I didn't know you spoke Spanish. I'm like, whoo! That was
I mean, that would send me into a panic if that was my first day and I didn't
absolute panic. And of course, I mumbled it to make it seem like and I didn't have to speak it perfectly, but I had to speak it enough to where this guy's in captivity and he's got to adopt and understand the language in order to get what he wants. I know how long he's been there. So yeah, that was fun. That was a fun time. But yeah, that was the stuff.
Dave Harrington says Rick's return has been the best thing on GH for years. Loving.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Mark Teschner, I understand you first auditioned for him when he was at Loving.
Yep. I know Mark for 40 years. Yeah, I know him a long time. He
just celebrated his 35th anniversary at General Hospital.
At GH, right? Exactly.
Yeah, incredible.
Yes, and well deserved. I mean, he has such an acute eye. Like his relationships with so many actors. I'm sure if you amass all of the actors whose careers have just taken off into all different directions, he knows them. He knows them, or has auditioned them, or worked with them, or close. Who knows, right? Yeah, that's when Loving obviously was down ABC on the West Side, and we always knew that that's when you used to go pick up your side pages, right? Your script pages for the scene. And there was a role of Steve, and the role I remember looking at it as some blonde actor. I can't remember his name or anything. It just seemed like at 18 years old, I go, oh, that's a typical soap role, or 20 years old, excuse me. That's a typical soap role. And I wasn't really that excited about it. I had all of these lofty, ideals at that age, saying like, I'm never going to do soap. I'm like, shut up, dummy. It's work. You work and you make it what you make it. But I I went there, and the guard desk had all the side pages out there. I find the pages for Steve, and I see this other uh, thing for, I forget the name of the character. Can't remember the name of the character, but I see the name of the character, and it's sort of a gritty, kind of wrong side of the tracks kind of guy. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. That's the part I really want to maybe read. And I went, took them both home, learned both of them.
Oh.
And when I got into the room with Mark, he goes, so, all right, any questions? And I said, just one. I said, I know, I think my agent said the role of Steve, but I saw this other role for the role of whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't sure which one to prepare. And he looked at me and very plainly, like Mark went, it's for the role of Steve. And I went, oh, okay. Well, I learned both. So, I mean, in case, but yeah, okay, let's read. He goes, you know what? Go ahead and read the other role. And then, then we'll read, the role of Steve. I said, oh, okay, cool. I read that one. He paused. He said, wait here. He stood up, walked out, came back in the office, sat down, and he goes, you're going to read for the producers in 5 minutes. And I went, okay, great, great. So I can't remember if I stepped out or I stayed there. I read for the producers, left there, felt really good about it. And then the days when we had pagers, you had to go to the payphone and call your agent.
Yeah.
So I go to the agent, I go to I get the page, and I call my agent. And I'm like, so what's up? And he said, they want you to screen test. And I was like, oh my God. Mind you, I was working on my very first project, my very first film, which was an extremely low budget, non-union film called Brain Damage, which is now a kind of a cult film, which I discovered later in life. That's another story. I go, well, that's great. Like, yeah, and this is what they're looking at the contract and yada, yada. And I said, okay. And he says, but my agent said, but the problem is that it was Nancy Curtis, who was at Brett Adams' agency, a boutique agency there in Manhattan. And I said, what's the problem? And she goes, you're already contracted to the film and we can't get you out. I went, what do you mean? I'm like, you got it. Yeah, they've shot half the film on you. We'll be in breach of contract. I was like, how much are they paying me? Can't we do anything? I mean, come on, you can't do this. Like, I'm sorry. So I wasn't able to go read for the role and screen test. The role went to, drum roll, the late
Luke Perry.
Luke Perry.
Wow, I have chills because Mark, when I sat down with him, told me his audition story. Wow. And they remained really close friends.
Yes. And he was wonderful. I saw him. He was beautifully cast. I mean, look at him. He was not only matinee idol beautiful, but he had that perfect edge to him that was, lack of a better word, palatable to sort of a mainstream. Like, he wasn't so edgy that it would repel you, but it drew you in because you're like,
did you get to work with Luke when you were on 90210?
Not directly, and I really would have. I wanted to be. I was too nervous to go up to him and say, "Hey, listen, we were both up for the same role, pal." I did not. No,
things work out for a reason, right?
They do. They really. I wasn't working there at 90210 that later on, but
they really do. What was it about Rick that made you want to take on that role, Lansing?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of mystery about him. The fact that it was a role that I was able to create from the ground up with the writers. I had just come off of Bold and the Beautiful, which was very light-hearted and fun and great stuff. But I like characters. I tend to lean into characters that have sort of this, as one of my teachers used to say, that secret in their pocket that nobody knows about until they reveal it. And that there just had that quality to the character that I got a chance to see. And I did not know, I wasn't told about the reveal that I was Sonny's brother until almost the time when we were going to reveal. Like I was sworn to secrecy. I was not allowed to let on, right? And I did know I was going to be working with Maurice, and I had seen Maurice's work, and I had always wanted to work with him, and I was thrilled about that. And then subsequently, all the other people I got to work with. Tamara, we became very good friends afterwards. Um, Alicia, I got to work with Steve. It's just, it was a very, it was an A game sort of environment. And I always like to be in an environment where I have to not, I'm going to challenge myself anyway, but I hopefully what I'm bringing and challenging myself winds up being challenging to other people and vice versa. So we get some really exciting stuff. That's what I was most drawn to it. You know, I didn't have a lot of information going into it.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't give it. One of the fans was saying was Rick supposed to be Lily's brother, and then they changed it to Sonny.
Yes, correct. I was supposedly come back to
Poor Charles.
for revenge for her death because she died in a car bomb because of Sonny. So that was that, and it wound up become what happened was Bob and I was doing a scene with Maurice when we both had dark hair. At least we were both dying that nobody knew what was under. At least mine was. I don't know about mom's at that time, but we were both on screen at the same time, and the shot was on me at the time, and I don't know if they glanced or I don't know if it was Bob or Chuck or both, and they were saying, "Oh, look, Rick, look, Mo's on camera," and they went, "No, that's Rick." And
Wow.
it was at that moment
Light
that
bulb.
they decided to do it, right?
Love
I had so many different names when I came on. I made the joke that they must have been reading the Bible when they were opening the coming up with the names. It was Peter, Paul, Mark. I was like, it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, everything. You're going to run through all 12, and then they came onto Rick with a C, and I was like, what is he? And I said, what's the last name? And they didn't have it at the time, and so Rick, okay, great, with a C. What is he, a model? Like, he's Rick. Hi, here's handsome, So, and it made it easy for me because obviously that's my name, except I put the K. So.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm noticing all the comments here. I don't know if you pay attention, very different than when you were on Guiding Light and you would get snail mail that would tell you that people were excited to see you. But the genuine love that is there for you, my friend, and for this character is huge. Have you seen some of the warm wishes on social media?
I have, and I'll be honest with you, it's challenging because you back in the day, don't ever. I was also told, don't ever believe your own press, good or bad, right?
Correct.
Stay right in the middle. Don't if somebody gives you a compliment, obviously you appreciate it, you wonderful, it's great, you love it. But if somebody gives you an opinion that's maybe not favorable, again, remember it's their point of view and their opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. But how can you? Like you'll find 50 million wonderful comments, and then one person goes, "I think he's terrible." Oh my God, I'm horrible. What have I done? The best, honestly, I'll tell you where I get all of my where I learn the most about the reaction.
From family.
I do. My mother.
Yeah,
my mother's on the board. She's on the boards. And she gets upset. Like if somebody says something, negative about the character or about me, the actor, and I'm like, Mom, relax. It's everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's good if people are not talking, they're like, then that's the worst.
Correct. And that you should be so happy because they are talking. They are happy that he is back. They're talking about how great you and Maurice are together. Let's talk about what it was like putting your lawyer hat back on and stepping in to first help Heather and then in the courtroom to defend Ava Jerome. What was it like stepping back into the lawyer?
So I knew coming back, I was just waiting for that shoe to drop. Like, okay, when am I going to start talking, more than actual lawyers talk? And I just kept prepping myself and prepping myself until, bam, I saw it and went. First, it was with Heather, and I got a chance to work with the wonderful
I
Allie Mills
know.
again because I
Yeah.
worked with her on Bold and the Beautiful. Totally different character, so she really gets to kind of chew it up, and she's just a live wire, man. She's so much fun. But being able to really put things together in terms of, look, it's legal jargon, and you could throw it off as legal jargon. Nobody's listening, but they should listen, because the key for you, for me, as the actor, and as the character, is to make sure that not only does the character understand that what's at stake, what I'm defending them on, what kind of pitfalls there might be, all of those kinds of things. You have to know that you've been through these scenarios a million times and operate. If you're a good lawyer, you have to be able to operate. It's like pulling case studies out of your, what. And for me, the fluidity with that is very, very important. A stumble means, that you're not sure of yourself, and that would not be something that's not something I wanted to ever resonate with or show with Lansing. So it for me, repetition is everything. Just being able to have it so part of you where it just rolls out of you. I got scripts for the Ava Jerome trial. When I saw it, the first opening day was 70 pages. And I went, oh my God, I have not. And I was told, hey, Rick, we move really fast now. I was like, we moved fast back in the day. And they're like, you don't even know. And this was it. So thankfully, I got my script a week in advance. I lived with it. I slept with it. I took it on
Under your pillow.
I kid you not. I take it to the bathroom with me. I take it to the store. I keep it in the car. I'm like, it's all because I had to make sure that, especially when you have every other character in the show stating your legal prowess, like he's a shark, he's the best, nobody could touch him, yada yada yada. It's like you have to be that tough. So that was my job. That was
Every important character was in that courtroom.
Say again?
And every important character was in that courtroom watching you as
bet.
well.
You bet. And
well,
that's a tough audience. Let me tell you, that's a tough audience, because if you're in the gallery, right, in the audience, as a member of the that's just watching all of this unfold, it's not an enviable place to be. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
I've been there, not many times, but a couple of times. But mostly, I know what to be there. You're just like, okay, when's the day done? Are we breaking for lunch? And because you have nothing to say, it's a little boring to be not, and you still have to be active. So, hey, can you make it entertaining for us, Rick? Hopefully. So that was the good part. When you get the acknowledgement from your peers around you, you're doing it right. And they were all like,
speaking of that, my friend, I wanted to read something. Locher Hearst, in reference to your courtroom scene, said to me, Jerry Verdorn would be so effing proud.
The king.
You stopped me in my tracks and made the courtroom drama very compelling. And Jill does not watch GH as a regular viewer. So she literally was walking by and you stopped her in her tracks.
Wow. Thank you. I'll tell you something else. Thank you, Jill. That's very, very sweet of you. I very much appreciate that. I was actually on set the other day, and Stephen Smith, who I've not met, happened to be there. I don't know if I'm divulging anything, but he comes and goes from time to time because he's got a big job as a sportscaster. He came up to me and extended his hand, and I just was like, "Hi." It's just, like dumbfounded for a minute, and he says, "I'm a fan of Law and Order," and he goes, "And let me tell you, you had me. It was fantastic, amazing job." And I was like, "Oh wow!" So it's It was tough, but again, it goes back to that. It's that work ethic. It's if you put in your time, you put in the energy, you have to feel like my heart was pounding before every single moment where they went 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're off to the races. Like I was like, whew, here we go, like this. And then getting through it and feeling that you're staying in that moment there, especially, the cross-examination with Kate Mansi, who I adore them all. But the two girls, I've fallen in love.
They are phenomenal. Well, let's talk about all of these co-stars. Just off the top of your head, what comes to mind? Starting from that 2002 being in prison with Steve Burton.
Steely. Like you want a single word? Steely.
I love
the piercing blues. He is immovable. He's an immovable force when you're on set with him. When you're doing a scene. Tamara Braun, playful and explorative and fearless.
And Carly, when you arrived, was Ms. Michelle Stafford.
Carly? No. Nina, you're thinking.
Oh, Nina. Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nina was.
Yes.
Yes. Tamara was Carly. Yeah.
Yes.
Tamara was Carly.
As she knows, Michelle would I've known Michelle many, many years beyond that. And just what's the word I was just not hopeful. The word I'm looking for is possibility. She was all about possibility in scenes.
Your brother, Maurice.
Aside from intense. He's as much in the moment as you can be. And also about Mo is that I get very emotional when I talk about Mo because we're very connected without being actual family members. Trust.
Many fans were commenting on how much they enjoyed your state of mind with him.
Yeah.
So great that
he's doing really wonderful things, and I'm really proud of him. And he's taken a step where he's talk about bravery and being in an uncharted world. That world is very, very challenging moment to moment to deal with in your own psyche, but to be able to go out there to help other people do that. He's doing
correct. It is so brave for him to share his story with all of us, but to then not only share his story, but to use his platform to share what we all might not have a diagnosis, but we all go through our own mental anguish in some way.
Exactly.
Every human being. So it is really so commendable what he does with that.
Yeah, it's not to focus on him and what he deals with, although he will mention that in passing. But it's really about sort of that collective, like you just said, of everybody goes through something, and the core of that, it either becomes something so extraordinary that it's a chemical imbalance that you don't know what is, but you need to. It's an awareness, like you're getting that awareness on yourself to be able to know how to deal.
Yeah, 100%. Kristen Verganos. So this was the first time that you and she, right, worked as as your daughter.
Yeah. I had no idea. I had caught a couple of episodes prior to coming in with her. Kristen is she's a very old soul. She has a depth to her and an understanding and a professionalism that far belies her years. And she and I just fell in. She gets the jokes, which is, at her age, at somebody that young, to be able to hang and roll with other vets and what have you, she's completely at home, right? And she welcomes it. She's always I talk about my own like ability to show up and like be prepared. I'll be honest with you. When she's working, I'm like, oh, it's like going to work with, for me, like going to work with Maurice or anybody. But she is always on, like stealing, just stealing, and I love her because she's such a doll. She's such a doll.
That's awesome. Becky Herbst.
Uh Becky was one of the first people that I worked with when I came there. Becky is, if Becky, in the right context, Becky is a soulmate. Becky and I are buddies, and we have such an incredible mutual respect for each other, in that I look at her character and think about what's important to her, and she with me, and we're both. That's, I think, what made Elizabeth and Rick so able to click. Right? They challenged where they wanted to be, and we're hopeful about one another. But Becky as well. She's very much, Becky is what Jane Elliott is now, right? Will become, and is just on her way to becoming. She's just very much that little, I call it, she's like a little Buddha.
You just got me thinking, I wish you could have seen Jane opposite Jerry on Guiding Light.
Oh, that must have been something to watch.
That
must have been something extraordinary to watch.
Yeah,
Jane is Yoda.
I'm pretty positive she had a split personality. If my memory is the character she played, it was.
Well, Jane also produced GH, if I remember correctly. She was a line producer for quite some time back in
General Hospital,
right? I believe so.
Oh, wow.
I might be wrong, but I remember Jane as being a producer. I might be off, but put that to the gallery.
Yeah, I'm curious.
They might be able to come forward with that.
And of course, Nancy Lee. I mean, first of all, let me say, watching you two has been incredible, because I never really watched GH until the late Jackie Zeman passed, and I've been tuning in ever since.
Yeah.
And I think Nancy is quite phenomenal as
phenomenal and a phenomenon.
Yeah,
a phenomenon. I mean, Nancy has such an incredible sense of herself as a person, as a woman, and it doesn't make excuses for herself, and that translates into her work. And I think that's one of the greatest qualities about her. She's once you have worked with Nancy and you understand like where it all comes from, you just got to know what you're doing and just ride with her, because she'll be there with you. Even if she'll come out, oh, I don't know what this is, and blah blah blah. She will fight for what's right more than any actor I've ever seen, as an actor and in her life.
I was going to say, in her life, I have watched her speak up on from A to Z, to support what she feels is right, and I commend her immensely.
Yeah, and the good thing, and she's not above. This is the thing. There's a difference between having a megaphone and speaking out, but she's not above admitting when she's wrong, or admitting that there's something to be thought of. It's not like she's always right. She takes observation. She takes what she's getting there and digests it and translates it back in her own voice. And that's the beautiful thing about working with her. Sometimes, hey, listen, you could talk to a million different people who've worked with Nancy Lee. Some people say, oh, it's so frustrating. It's like, listen, when Nancy and I worked together, it was like that married couple that are two totally opposites, but somehow they work. That was us. And the more we've worked together, where we just get each other. And
Well, I think the powers that be must see the amazing chemistry between you as actors, as those characters, and I think all of us people watching General Hospital right now are seeing that
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, she's funny. She's just like, you're so mean. She says, you're so evil. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm not evil. I said, you just disagree with me. And she was like, well, yeah, that's the beautiful thing. It's like the feeling that the characters have about each other will come into play when we're like, because we personally involve ourselves. But that's the great part, is that we're that couple that everybody knows somewhere in their lives, for better or
100.
worse. That's who they are. But it's also that attraction that they have. I've always said to Nancy, was like, she's like, here come the Bickersons, you know. I said, we'll be sleeping together next week. Don't worry about it, you know.
Well, speaking of sleeping with someone, let me read you what was posted yesterday from an Instagram account called "For the Love of Ava Jerome."
Oh,
Christmas has come early. Thank you, General Hospital, for the gift of Rava.
I saw that just this morning. I was at the gym. I was on the elliptical, and I'm, because I occupy my time. I was like, oh, what? Oh, and I was like, what a great shot. I'm like, damn it, how do I share this stuff? I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to share on Instagram. I'm still learning. Sorry, person who posted that. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I
It's
told
been,
them I would be mentioning it and reading it because I thought it was phenomenal. So on that note, you
yeah.
know, Ms. Maura yesterday with your present and the bow.
And the bow.
Talk about Maura West.
Okay. So originally that scene had a little more heavy hand sexually, and you know, which would you would think, you're like, oh, lean into it. The key, really, I think, with both of these characters. First, the characters. These characters are they're very leery. They've been
Well,
through
they're
a few
smart,
other relationships. You know what I mean?
right? They
So
don't take fools lightly.
yes, yes, they don't suffer fools. Correct.
Yeah, suffer fools.
And
Yeah,
either of them. So the questions, while they seemed very textually on the paper, seemed very sexual, which is not wrong, but it can't be as such a heavy hand. So we almost rolled it back, and that's Mara said. She feels like that's a little bit too much. So obviously we asked to work through these things. That's not like just like we're saying what we want to say. It's like we asked to work through things to see if it felt better. And to Ms. West's credit, the whole thing with the bow, it's not just tied up with a bow like that, was all her. All her.
it was delicious to say the least.
She's just is that's it. She is delicious. She is the ice cream sundae with the
Yeah.
cherry on top all day long. She I Somebody asked me to describe um, Mara as Ava, and this transformative thing happens. Mara's she's a regular girl. She's just like no nonsense, not a lot of frills about her. Um, you know, very family oriented. You know, it's she's East Coast girl. I love about her. To watch her transform into Ava is sort of a layered thing of silkiness, and she just moves through things very. She discovers with each like moment, she discovers where she's at, whether it's the interaction or what the text is telling her, or what the other actor is giving her, where she is at a particular moment. It's the most beautiful thing to watch and be a part of. And because she's a great dance partner, she's just an amazing dance partner.
Well, that's
And
what's got to make it so much fun to be back doing what you're doing, and also getting the opportunity to work with somebody so talented, to say the least,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
new to Ric
Yeah.
Lansing.
Yeah. And
And
it's
Rick
great
Hearst.
because, yeah, I said, I feel like it's Rick 2.0. Like many characters, if you're going to come back, my hope initially when I came back was really, hey, listen, if we're hopefully we're not doing the same, Carly Panic Room storyline. Let's talk trash at him all day long. I was prepared for it, and I go, look, whatever it is, and I'll deal with it. But I felt like I wanted this character to have a different perspective on life, not deny what he's done, and also not try to say I'm a new person. It's like, no, I'm that guy with perspective to know I don't want to add insult to injury, but there's certain characteristics about him that you can't let go of. This is a man with flexible morals. This is a man with flexible ethics. This is a guy who still is a party of one, and has to look out for himself in that way. And that's historically from kind of, he was set up and feeling like he had no attachment to a mother who gave him up and a brother who doesn't want him, so he's just very much this island unto himself. And to be able to find a partner in crime, for lack of a better word, or even a confidant or a mate, is daunting. And to take those steps very slowly into that relationship with Ava, I think is very smart. And I'm so looking forward to more of what they've got in store. you know and it's very much a realistic look at one another, right?
So are the
It's not like,
fans. So are the fans.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
just
yes.
seeing that yesterday made my day. And I don't think
It's
at the
fun.
time.
Get ready for today. It turns into all kinds of comedy.
Oh,
All
great.
kinds of
I
comedy today.
hadn't,
Yeah.
I don't think I had seen the episode yet. Yesterday when I
Yesterday,
read
you mean? Yeah, I won't get it.
no, when I read about the Ava Jerome
Oh, with the
fan
bow, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
saying, Christmas came early, I just loved reading that. Um, I don't know your other roles on Young and the Restless and Bold and Days of the women you were paired with, but of course I know Guiding Light, and many fans watching us here today are fans of Guiding Light. But you have incredible chemistry. Watching you on GH for the last since August, since you've been back, knowing all of your work on GL with Sonia and Melina. Um, as actors, talk about Sonia and Melina as well. Like, fans would love to hear.
So, yeah, yeah. Sonia, Melina, I'll kind of do it in reverse. Melina, to this day, she and her husband are dear friends of mine and my families. Our families are very, very close. Like, whenever we talk, how's mom, how's the kids, how's this cousin, how's that cousin? Oh, what's a great? I mean, we remained that way for so many years. So
I'm dying to get her here, and I reached out to her daughter because of her daughter's new music. So we're going to try in the new year.
Karina, is
Yes.
she not extraordinary?
Yes. I would
both
love.
of her both of her daughters. It's like, they're hideous beings and have no abilities, no talents, no nothing. Yeah, it sucks when that happens. I'm so sorry for her. But much like Melina, here's the thing I could say about my friend. Um, Again, you go back to work ethic. People think that it just kind of falls in her lap. She is she has put forth the work and the energy. She's an incredibly, stunningly gorgeous woman, right? Always has been, always will be. But her spirit is what actually transcends all of that. And her ability, that's what makes her so infectious with people, with audiences, and with the characters, right? She approaches it in that same, very, very same way. That's what we both kind of loved about working together. um, Sonia, Sonia was so wide-eyed when she came in, and so willing to just explore, and you know, she was just that kid in a candy store that was looking forward to the next day, and she was up for anything, and just the innocence about her was what I really adored. Now I look at her and I see, all the extraordinary things she's doing, that she's a life coach for so many people. She's helping so many people, right? When you think back to Lucy, she was just sort of this little scrapper kid
Lucy needed
who's
help.
good.
Lucy
Yeah,
needed
Lucy
help.
needed help. Lucy needed help, but Lucy figured it out, right? She
Yeah.
didn't have anything. She kind of came up from nothing and found her way. And I've heard Sonia talk about that, now. Um, and I think we even, when we had
Yeah, together.
our last talk together, she really has applied so much of that experience early on into what she does now with helping people, and taking those trials and tribulations and what she learned and wasn't sure of herself, but what she kind of took the leap of faith each day. um yeah, she's a sweetheart, and we still
And before I
the
forget,
tough thing is, you got.
the fans mentioned Sherry Stringfield as well.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about a good broad. She was something else. Another one who was far beyond her years. Um, Sherry and I were buddies. We had a great time working together. I haven't. I won't say I lost touch with her. I just haven't been in contact with her in recent years. Um, she is somebody also that she was somebody that I so marveled at, because when we're actors and we come into this and we're like, it's all about, it's who I am, it's my identity. Oh, if I have this, I have nothing else. Sherry was not that. And at 23 years old, Sherry was just like, hey, you know, she obviously loved it and wanted to do it, but she was very much on her terms, and she's always been that way. And I so respected that about her. And again, that's what made her so real to work with. Um, yeah, I've had some great ladies that I've worked with, and I got to tell you, the beauty of that for me, on another note, and I think about this, is like, people say having chemistry with different actresses, right? Um, I I more and more I attribute that to the fact that I grew up, 4 years it was me and my mom together. You know, I have a very sorry, I'm getting very emotional when I talk about this. My mother and I are extremely close. My mother has taught me so much about what it is to not just be, a woman, but how to be a man, and understanding of that, and knowing that there's differences, but yet there's, that mutual respect is so important. And I've spoken to Liz Kiefer on her podcast, and she says, you have always been this lover of women, and I do. I have such a great appreciation all around for women, and and all that they are. And I marvel at it, and I it's exciting to be around. And I think that's
Well, I
probably
think
one of the reasons.
you're raised right, like being raised by a great parent like your mom, who you have such utter respect for,
Yeah,
translate into how you treat your co-stars. So that chemistry, I think, just builds because you just respect them as human beings.
absolutely,
I think it's so
absolutely.
much of how we interact with people is how we're taught to interact. If you don't
Yeah,
learn that. I think I met your mother at the restaurant, right? In Ocean
you
Grove.
did. Yeah, when we
I
were all
did.
sitting there, it was me
Yeah.
and that was my mom's dear friend, colleague that she worked with for so many years. And yeah, and we just enjoy hanging out together. My mom's fun.
I, I,
My
I
mom's a lot
love
of fun.
that. I wanted to ask Matthew, a fan sent, Rick's return has been a grand slam. If time
Ah,
permits, would he ever consider a return to Scotty Bannon? Given how wonderful
mm.
Stephen Schnetzer was recently, I think Julie could use a visit from her other grandson.
Oh, I would love to see Susan. Jeez. And it's so sad about her losing Bill recently. But I looked at
Talk
Susan.
about both of them. Talk about both
Oh,
of them.
well, I didn't know Bill all that much. I worked with Susan a very long time ago. She had just returned as Julie at the time. Susan was so funny. She goes, "Wait a minute, you're my great great grandson." She goes, we're not playing that. We're not playing that. No way. We're not playing that." Statuesque. That's Susan to me. She just has this iconic sort of grace and power in her. She reminds me very much of Jane in that way, right? Different entities, absolutely. But Susan, I look at now and I'm like, how did you go in reverse and get more beautiful as you got older? But Susan really, I was talk about being green. She led the way for me. I got a chance to work with Matt Carey and with Francis Reed, and because they were great great grandparents, I think. I don't know. The lineage was weird, but um, Susan was really instrumental for me learning that medium in my first years on Daytime. That was my very first show. As far as coming back to Scotty Banning, one character at a time. One character at a time.
would that be a lot for you?
Oh, that would be too much for me. I know Wally does it; he can bounce back and forth. I don't know that I'm a single character guy at a time. I can't balance that. I don't know how that would be.
That is wild. So
Yeah.
what are the holidays like in the Hearst household? Christmas coming up?
Well, for me, absent at the moment because I'm here for quite some time. I literally will be flying back on the 20th, 4 days before Christmas. But it's the beautiful thing is that while I was home around Thanksgiving for a couple of weeks, I got a chance to went out to the shed, dug out all of the different things. I make jokes that it's like Hobby Lobby threw up in my house. There's so many decorations. My mother-in-law she's a big fan of nutcrackers. I'm not so much. So the running joke is every year, for as long as I can think, she's given me a nutcracker at Christmas. This year, I've instructed my wife. I said, I will burn it if your mom gives me another nutcracker. We have, Alan, I kid you not, I want to say we got 50 nutcrackers this tall, all with the little eyes and bang, 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 bang. I can't. Freak me out. At one point, we had them in Atlanta. We had them all up in the top of the cabinets, all staring at me like, I can't. It's just too creepy. But we do decorate pretty heavily in the house. Already got all of the lights outside. We go to my cousin's house. About 5 minutes, both of my cousins, 5 minutes this way, 5 minutes that way. We go to their house on Christmas Eve and we do the Feast of the Seven Fishes. We got all the family. There's anywhere between 20 and 30 of us at a time. Big Italian family. And, we'll start with calamari. I'm in charge of the calamari. I fry the calamari. Then my cousin Lena and Ro, they're doing different, we do linguine with white clam or red clam and sometimes with crab sauce. There's lobster. There's, other fishes. It's too much. You got to pace yourself. You really got to pace yourself.
Holidays are about pacing.
Yeah, I definitely.
Before I let you go, Veronica just said, which I love, all the characters that Rick has portrayed have been so complicated. That is why he is so good. Do you believe they are all complicated?
Yeah, complicated. I guess multifaceted. I can't see a character as being one way because it gets very stiff and very, you don't want it. You're not playing two dimensions. You're playing a human being that, breathes air and feels things and has thoughts. And you have to make sure that, you have to make sure that you look at who that person is and all they've been through and what they're dealing with and marry whoever who you are with that. And if you can't do that, in my opinion, you're not really honoring what the writers have given you to tell that story to the audience. They don't buy it. They don't care.
Well, the audience is buying it.
Oops.
The audience is buying it this time around for sure.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Keep it up, my friend. Thank you so much
Keep it
for
up
doing
for as
that.
long as I have it. Thank you so much, Alan. I so appreciate it. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to everybody out there.
Yeah.
Stay safe, and love each other. We have the ability to be able to see each other eye to eye. Because at the base of who we are, we just want to be heard. We just want to be known that we're loved. We want to be known that we matter. So,
Perfect way to end. Happy holidays, Rick.
thank you. You too.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. A big thank you to Rick Hearst for making time to chat with us today. Tune in to see Rick weekdays on ABC's General Hospital at 3 p.m. Eastern. Remember, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel down below, turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you'd like to stream audio versions, just search The Locker Room on your favorite podcast app. I hope you all have a great weekend. Stay safe, and I will see you soon.